Welcome everyone to Yoga Rebels. I'm Burg.
Lauren.
And we are going to talk about yoga and guru culture today. That sounds exciting.
Yes. Or a subtitle, Yoga Teachers Are People Too.
Yes. So my, I will admit that my original idea, one of the things that I enjoyed thinking about was being kind of like Yoda during teaching. Being able to give people these magical, mystical, like short sayings. That's good.
Like, gather around, children.
Yes. Let me say 10 words and blow your mind.
Yeah.
However, if this podcast has proven anything, I can't say anything in 10 words. I can't be succinct. So, number one, I'm not like Yoda in that way. But there is this sort of lure for a lot of yoga teachers to be that.
To blow some minds with your words of wisdom,
and you're gonna anyway,
right off the bat.
But you don't have to try to. Yeah. I mean, truly, what you're going to be teaching people is simple stuff about their body, their minds, the moment. But you'll blow people's minds more if you don't try. Because here's the thing, just overall, as a yoga teacher, you're creating an environment and a space for people to be.
Yeah,
and
it's not about us.
You can't guide the experience. You can't. You can't force the experience.
Right.
I can't say, now you feel wonderful.
Yeah.
You might, and I might say, okay, and now we're going to do this kind of a pose, and you're going to feel great in your spine. And so if we do this twist, and you're like, well, I hurt my back, but it felt really good on my hips. I must have been doing it wrong.
Right. That is a really interesting concept that comes up with trauma-sensitive yoga as well, in that if you are striving to have a trauma-sensitive or trauma-informed class, you want to eliminate that kind of language.
Yep.
Not just for people that are experiencing trauma, and I'll talk about trauma all the time because I'm a social worker, PS, if you haven't caught that yet. But what that does is it invalidates their experience to say that it's going to do one thing or another. And where that gets challenging, back to the guru culture thing, is when somebody is in a very vulnerable place and you're telling them how to feel. So for some people that might shut them down, they'll be turned off, they won't come back. But for other people that can create a really dangerous kind of situation, and it puts the yoga teacher in a position of power that creates a hierarchy that doesn't need to be there. And for somebody that has low self-esteem or a history of trauma or really all kinds of other things, that's where some of those dangerous relationships can come up, which is, we talk about Bikram and, some of the other teachers who took on that guru mentality and they just clung to it and they ran with it. People would flock to these gurus because we really honestly all want somebody just to tell us what to do. Sometimes. Yes. It's easier. It's a lot easier. So they would go searching for that guru, and some of those gurus were taking advantage big time. In that case of Bikram and a few others, we don't have to make a list. But you think about, just celebrity culture right now and things going on with that too. It comes from a place of one person being vulnerable and one person wanting to feel dominant and in control. And we don't want that. We don't want that for our students. We don't want that as yoga teachers. We want it to be a level playing field where we're facilitating an experience rather than we're facilitating experience with knowledge that yes, we worked to get and acquire so that we could do this thing. But we're not an expert on their person's body or their experience.
I'm not the expert of you.
Right. Yeah.
I may be a yoga expert, and that's debatable, but
it's facilitating. Yeah, I like to think of it as more facilitating rather than actually physically you're not, I mean, we're not walking around and physically like plopping somebody into, you know, mountain post. They need to understand how their body feels. How do your feet feel? Like, where do you feel your feet? Where do you feel your legs, your hips? And just, you can't stand somebody in front of you and tell them, and now you're going to feel very calm, very relaxed, because it's going to go, like I said, one of two ways. They're going to go, I'm not going back to that person because that felt really creepy, or they're going to make a connection that is not going to be psychologically sound.
Right. Yeah. And I think that from, you know, in the challenge, the problem with this guru mentality is it benefits nobody. It's self-serving to the teacher. And I think that you can sort of get a sense of a teacher coming in who thinks they are the guru. And I'm probably very guilty of it myself. But
I'm sure I have been too at some point.
And I think, you know, I mean, when I'm excited about a topic,
yeah,
you know, the science of stuff and all, like I pour over, like I'm just dial it down, Burg.
I do the same thing.
Damn.
And then, it's like, oh, wait, that was supposed to be an hour long.
And everybody's like, well, I'm hungry, and we're 3 hours into this hour and a half class.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, everybody.
Right. We're supposed to be 18 minutes or less. Yeah. And so, you know, that idea is, here's the thing. We were talking about this the other day. The guru mentality, I think it puts, if you're honest with yourself about it, yes, I love teaching people. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I like teaching anything really, but yoga specifically, is I like getting people to do things they didn't think they could do.
Yeah.
And whatever that thing is. I mean, but also, if I'm the guru, then boy, that puts a lot of responsibility on me.
I don't want that.
I really don't. You know, and I think, like, if somebody gets hurt, or if somebody doesn't have the experience I didn't think they were going to have, mm-hmm. you know, or whatever, like, number one, I'm going to feel like crap about my class or my workshop because it didn't go exactly as planned. And, you know, the student might feel like they failed because they didn't do what I wanted them to do. I mean, it's just this cycle of nobody's happy about it in the end, mm-hmm. unless you've somehow succeeded, like, to make this multi-million-dollar industry of people fawning over you in your sparkly underwear.
Maybe that's
is
the key to all of it.
Ideas of women
is the sparkly underwear.
Yeah, that might be the key.
Do you need to look at the time?
We still have 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. I thought you said check it like 10
seconds. No. So I think that, you know, I think there's a fine line between, and I think all teachers need to check themselves on this, there's a fine line between the concept of just simply being a teacher and sharing information.
It's the sharing piece, I think, for me, more than anything.
And it truly is collaborative. I mean, in my classes, unless you know that it's not the right time to ask a question, like, in the middle of Shavasana, we're all trying to wind down. In the middle, I mean, whatever. Like, but for the most part, I mean, other than using common sense, like, ask questions.
Right. I'm always really happy when somebody asks questions, maybe after class. They're like, okay, so we're doing this one pose, and mm-hmm. I felt like this, and maybe I thought I was supposed to feel like this. What was that about? And it's just that curiosity. I love to see people get curious about yoga, about what their bodies can do. I love when people do something, like you said, that they didn't think that they could do. Just the empowerment piece of it, which there's like a tricky other flip side to that too, as a yoga teacher, to not get too attached to that, because then if somebody has a bad experience, or if somebody, like you said, gets hurt, or it just misses the mark for them for some reason, it's really hard not to take it personally and think, because I'm not a good teacher, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. So that's kind of like the dark side of that, where it's hard. It's so easy to get attached to the positive side of that coin and
Yep.
take it and run with it. But then if you see the negative side of it, it's like, oh no, I'm not a good teacher after all. Maybe I should just pack it up and just call it quits.
Well, and what I've learned when it comes to working with humans, because that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, if some puppies want to do yoga, I'll help them.
Yeah. The puppies. This is not humans with puppies. This isn't doga, which is the thing.
I don't want my dog going to yoga
Goat
with me.
yoga.
They're terrible at yoga.
Giraffe yoga. The flip side of that also is not to feel bad when nobody says anything. Yeah. You know, because I've had. Here's what I've found. Here's what I found is the students in class who have this face when they're doing something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I struggled with that.
But
for
here's
a long
the
time.
thing: it doesn't mean that they're angry or frustrated or mad. That's their focusing face.
I know.
And so, although I do want their face to relax,
yeah,
I can't take that personally that they hate me or the class or whatever. They're just trying to figure it out. And it's typically the people with the most focused face at the end that actually do say, "It was great, thanks." However,
that's called projecting.
Yes. Right. And so that is a huge challenge.
I bet we all do it. I bet every yoga teacher does it because I still struggle with that. You're really into what you're teaching. You're like, yes, this is like I know this
I feel amazing. Why don't you?
Like I know this is a solid class. Like my cues are good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a solid sequence. Like I know what is going on, and then you see this one person in the back that they look like they're just like not having it for some reason, and you don't know what they came in there with.
They may have gas.
They may have gotten terrible news before class, but it is so hard to see that and not project.
Yes.
That they or in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, we call it mind reading. So that's a thing. That's a cognitive distortion that probably every human being does. Is that we kind of project and we think that we can read their minds, and so we're like, they're not happy. It's because I'm a terrible yoga teacher and I'm doing a bad job, and they're angry and they're gonna get up and they're gonna leave, and then they're always the ones at the end of class that were like, I really needed that.
Right. And the lesson for the teacher is it's not about you.
No.
Like
it's so hard to get over that. Yeah.
You know, I mean, validly, there are bad yoga teachers out there. I'm not going to lie about that.
How could there not be? There are bad anythings out there, and there are like a billion yoga teachers.
I've had bad math teachers, so it's the way you teach the thing. You may really love the subject and understand it really well, but there's a way to teach it for people to really receive it, you know. But truthfully, unless you've really just screwed the whole thing up royally and you came in and did nothing,
you just lay on the floor.
You're just like you say nothing to anybody, or you're completely like hungover or still drunk in a class. I mean, you know, truthfully, it's not about you. You don't know what they came into class with. And even though I do a check-in before every single class, I have a couple students who will always just say fine when I ask how they're doing. Okay.
That is so common.
Then you can't know what's going on with them unless they share it.
I have experienced this with counseling sessions, and I work with college students, and they're all pretty, type A. They're pretty much on top of things. They usually have really good grades and things like that. So they're people pleasers. And when they come to their session, I already know when they're coming in. They're coming in because they have depression or they have anxiety, or depression and anxiety, and it might be severe. And I'll ask them how their week was or how they're feeling. They'll always say fine or good.
I know that's not true.
And then they're just saying it because they want me to feel better, and it's not about me. And not. I think we all do it because if we were really, really honest all the time, every conversation would last about 4 hours.
Oh shit.
And we don't want people to think that we have anything going on under the surface that's like icky. And we all do.
Oh my god.
So I don't know. I think that's another important thing to do as a yoga teacher too. Is to like throw out those reminders from time to time too. Yep. That especially with like a balancing pose, like this might suck today. You might fall over, but tomorrow or maybe 2 hours from now, you'll nail this.
Yes.
So just instilling that awareness.
Yeah.
That we're all in it together. We all feel like crap, like from time to time, and it's okay.
Right.
And it's better to acknowledge that, and in terms of like yoga or meditation terms, acknowledge it, be aware of it, sit with it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like any other sensation, and let it be there without judgment.
Yeah, and without attachment. I mean, the thing, like, you know, if I fell out of a balancing pose right now, then that doesn't mean I suck at this pose, I'm never going to do it again. Or or you know, my mind is wandering in my meditation practice, I must suck and I'm never going to do it again. No, it's just like, you know, when do you have most of your energy? When do you feel good? My best balancing poses are truly sort of like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. First thing in the morning, not so hot, my brain's not there yet. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's a great challenge first thing in the morning, to get my brain going.
That's a hard one for people to grasp.
You know? Like, and I don't have good energy. I don't like a 2 o'clock class. That's like my worst energy day.
Yeah, if you get up earlier, 2 or 3 is not a good time for stinky things.
No.
Yeah, and I think that's a difficult thing to get across to people, because you will from time to time have people who will try a yoga class and they've not really come to it with body awareness, and they are falling out of their balancing poses, or they're not able to do the things maybe like the person next to them, and they call it a day and then they never go back. So they just immediately shut down and say, well, yoga is not for me. And that's a tough one to get across to people. So it's like, I almost feel like I have to give out like constant reminders to people that it's a process. And kind of back to the other talk we did, that if you have a certain idea in your mind of what a certain yoga pose looks like, and it came from Instagram or a yoga journal or something along those lines, just throw that out. Because you're not going to look like that, because that's what that person's body looks like. And I try to throw that out too. So if there are, say, 10 people in a class and we're doing a certain pose, and maybe it's pigeon's a hip opener, everybody's hips are totally different. So I like to point out, every single person in this room is going to be in their pigeon pose, and every single one of you is going to look different, and that's perfect. That's exactly how it should be.
That's what, if there's a should, that's it.
Yeah. And I love to, like, I get really excited when people modify things based on their body, and they don't give into that. When people use, we've talked about this before, when people use props, it's like,
yay!
Like, good work.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that, to be able to say, I'm going to use a block and triangle. I'm not going to try to jam my foot down to the floor so that I can, like, crunch up my rib cage and my spine. I'm going to use a block because that's where I'm at today.
And the key word there is also today. Because
today, or this hour.
There are some days, like, so I ran yesterday, did 10 miles. My hamstrings are like, well, today is a block day. Mm-hmm. You know, whereas some days I'm fine enough to get my hand to the floor or wherever else. But some days my body is different. And I need to honor that and respect the fact that my body is going to change. You know, if I didn't drink enough water, I'm not properly hydrated, I'm going to feel that.
Yeah.
You know, so and here's another thing. So circling back to the topic of teachers are humans too. So recognizing as teachers, it's okay if our face doesn't come to our knees in Paschimottanasana. And for everybody on, this may be your Paschimottanasana. Fold all the way forward if you want. It feels really great. And to me, my favorite part of that is stretching the backs of my knees, because my knees are bent all the time sitting in a cross-legged pose. Mm-hmm. But for teachers, you don't have to go to the fullest version of the pose to be a proper yoga teacher.
Sometimes that throws people off.
It really does. And as a student, you don't either.
Right. I think,
you know?
I struggled with this when I first started teaching because I was 27 and I don't know, when you're 27, your brain's only been fully developed for like 2 years. So I'll blame it on that. So I had this thing in my head where if I was going to teach a pose and it was more advanced, I needed to do it and I needed to do it perfectly. Like that mentality, if you're a yoga teacher, you have no business teaching unless you can do everything perfectly and model it
That's
perfectly.
what I was told.
So I would try to make these poses perfect and like the fullest expression of them. And I always noticed that there were like 2 reactions and I didn't like either of them. One was kind of like shock and awe, like, oh my god, that's amazing.
And people clap.
And people, yeah, oh, yuck, oh, I feel gross just thinking about it. And then the other group is like, well,
can't do that.
Never mind.
Yep.
And both felt really gross. I think that the first group, thinking back now, that feels grosser to me. And I have this thing with, I will occasionally use my Instagram to post yoga pictures because marketing.
Sure.
And people can see like, hey, she's a yoga teacher, she's doing a yoga pose. But like there are certain poses that I just feel really gross and weird posting, like if they're more advanced, because the responses are always self-deprecating.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that when people post, like if somebody has a really big, beautiful, perfect back bend or an arm balance especially, like all the comments are, I could never do that. Yep. Wow, you're incredible. And it's like,
no,
that's not the point, but to me that feels really, really gross. And I don't, and if that makes me feel gross, that's probably a pretty good sign that I don't need to be doing it.
Yeah.
So I really struggle with that. That's a really difficult piece for me in terms of like, being a teacher, getting people to come to classes, because you don't want it to be about you.
Right.
But they still need to see you.
Right.
And for some reason, seeing you doing the yoga stuff makes them more likely to come. So that's a really tricky thing for me. And I have a hard time with it.
And I think, the concept of like the guru or whatever is that you feel like you have to be, I have to be able to do the most advanced version of the pose, and I have to have the answer to everything.
Oh God, and people
to your gut problems.
Yeah. They want you to diagnose stuff at the end. Don't do that anymore, you guys.
Yoga teachers can't diagnose things.
Don't ask us to diagnose your injuries or your mental illness. You can ask me to diagnose your mental illness if you're paying me for counseling.
She's licensed.
You can do that. But like, I get it that you have this connection. And then flip side of that, yoga teachers don't feel like you need to do that. You
can say, I don't know.
It's so okay to say that you don't know.
Or to refer.
Refer out. Please start referring people to physical therapists. Because
or psychiatrists
or whatever, but the
mental health
but
therapists.
Especially the so often, whether it's on the internet or in person, people have this feeling that their yoga teacher can diagnose a physical condition that like probably 100% of the time requires a physical therapist. And it's okay to say that you don't know. Like we didn't go to school to become physical therapists. We trained to be yoga teachers.
As much as I would like to be a physical therapist,
I
don't have the time or the money to go back.
Right.
To school for
if
that.
I was just magically a physical therapist, that would be okay. Sure. Just add it. I don't know when I would do it, but like, I would like to have those answers to everything, and that's the dangerous piece of it, where the guru thing falls in, and that's where it's like you get the people that say, I don't do this because my yoga teacher said it's bad, or like I only brush my teeth with coconut oil because my yoga teacher said that that fluoride is slowly killing us. Like that, there's a whole other talk we can do on like the woo stuff that happens within the yoga community. But that's kind of like how it gets worse. Is like these people are like, well, I'm the yoga teacher, so I know this stuff. So you have to be very careful of the information that you're putting out. Sometimes about even your own preferences,
right,
for life stuff, because people hear that, and if they're in that more vulnerable place, they're like, well, my yoga teacher said that she does this, so, or, God, I hate even talking about this. When I first started teaching, I was very, very thin, because I was malnourished, and people would ask me, about like foods to eat or like diet tips and things like that.
And you're like, just don't eat.
Just don't eat.
That's how I get this body.
Do approximately 6 hours of cardio a day and keep your calorie intake dangerously low.
6 grapes and 10 miles of running.
Yeah, make sure you count the grapes. But they would ask stuff like that, and or they'd ask me how many calories they're going to burn in the yoga class. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes. I mean, there are these sayings for a reason. And, I mean, you know, like, you are your own guru. You know,
you're your own guru.
You're the expert of you.
Yes.
If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Yeah.
If it hurts, stop. Mm-hmm. You know, and the truth is like, does the yoga feel good? Then you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know? If you want suggestions on how to do something differently or, you know, work on strength, work on these things.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and feeling good, too, doesn't necessarily mean, like, I think you were just saying, it's not like rolling around in a pile of cotton.
No.
Like, it could be challenging, but that challenge can be good, too. I think that's where some people get a little bit confused with yoga, and they think that it's really fluffy and easy, and they're just going to be, it's basically just like stepping into a warm bath and doing nothing for an hour.
Yeah.
It's work, but that work can feel really good and satisfying in the same way that if you are a runner, it feels good and satisfying to do that, and if it doesn't, then you cut your run short, or you don't do it that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Ease up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we did
we
that.
Solved it.
Yep, problem solved. Gurus.
That's the end of that chapter.
Right, excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. And you know, what we should be saying at the end of these videos is like, subscribe, and we would love to hear comments, feedback. Let's make this discussion. If you have questions or anything like that,
ask
them in the
questions.
Comments. Yeah, we clearly like talking about yoga, so ask questions.
You can ask questions about Star Wars too.
Yeah, and if you would like to debate us on something, yes. Yes. Yeah. All right. See you next time. Bye, everyone.